All right, time to find the energy
Time to find the energy.
that neither one of us have today. Man, it's pretty amazing that we are on, I think this is going to be episode 80, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think he sounds right to me.
And that's, a lot of these nights, we do not feel like recording a podcast.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the Performance High Hangout.
All right.
Yeah, that was fun. That is something we do a couple times a year.
Yeah, it's been a couple times a year. I want to make it more frequent, though. I think I'm going to make it more like every couple of months going forward.
I thought maybe even once a month, depending on where it is in town, let somebody else lead it. You don't necessarily have to be there.
Right. And we can move it around and move it to different locations and different days so different people can make it, because there's no place and time we can pick that everybody can come. Obviously.
Yeah, that's the big challenge. But we were at Improper City, which is in Rhino, right near our studio, literally next door. And
I had 2 blue drinks. They were fun.
Incredibly blue drinks.
They had little blue gummy sharks in them. It was called a shark attack.
Blue
Curacao. Yeah.
Yeah, neon blue.
Yeah, they were. It looked like antifreeze.
Yeah. They were good, I guess. That's what people
They were good.
said. Yeah.
I mean, afterwards I felt like I had too much sugar, but that's all right.
Sure
It was a fun hangout.
Yeah, gosh. And we had some new people come by.
Yeah, I got to know Kelvin, who is a brand new student at Performance High. He works with Joe. I guess he's been taking lessons for 2 whole weeks, and he's been in Denver for 2 whole months.
And was cool enough to show up, so that was fun.
And he was fascinating because he hiked the entire Continental Divide.
Yes.
From Mexico to Canada. Holy moly!
It's a little bit the equivalent of the Appalachian Trail, except you are marching, whatever, along the Continental Divide, which separates on one side the water flows to the Atlantic, on the other side the water flows to the Pacific. And it's like 3,000 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. What a huge undertaking. And so that was fun hearing about that.
Yeah. He did say it was boring. Which I can imagine.
I bet a lot of it's just walking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He said he was covering like 30 miles a day a lot of times.
It's crazy.
And that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
And Matt Martinez showed up. So it was great to see Matt. Our friend who's a mariachi, who we've talked about, Ray Lynn's husband. It's nice of him to come by. Nate Marsh came by. Always a...
And he and Ray Lynn had the most interesting conversation about ways to communicate chords and movement in music.
Oh, really? I missed all that. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. It was a mind bender.
Wow.
I'm sure I cannot remember all of it, but here is an example. In Spanish or in Latin music, the first chord is the 1. The second chord is the dominant, the 5. The second chord is the 4. The third chord is the 4.
Right.
So if you call 1, 2, 3 with your fingers, you're calling, say in the key of C, you're calling C, G, F.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also movable do versus fixed do, and
which
you know about that,
nonsense.
Right? That's crazy. I mean, I knew that it existed, but
Yeah.
it's actually used. So, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get really into the weeds if I even try to explain this. But sometimes I'm not even gonna start. I'm not even going to start because I'm going to get it all wrong. But I understood it at the time. I was barely following along, but there's no way I could repeat it.
The chord thing makes a lot of sense because you've got the 1 chord is the strongest.
Right, exactly.
The 5 chord is the second strongest. The 3 chord is the third strongest.
Yeah.
You could kind of rank them that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not an order of tension, but just an order of...
importance or something?
Yeah. Landing or...
Yeah.
Well,
anyway,
that's fascinating.
There are all these different ways to communicate what to play. Like if you're in a mariachi band and you're calling songs and you're trying to like sing and then like with a hand you're trying to indicate what chord is coming next.
Where the chord goes, yeah.
There are so many different and overlapping ways to do it that Ray Lynn's sometimes like, there could be 3 things that this symbol means, you know? And you just have to be good enough to use your ears and your brain at the same time in the middle of the song. Anyway, that was a great conversation. And then Doug Webb also came, so it was great to see him.
Of course, Doug. Yeah, it was great.
I haven't seen
great
Doug
to
in a
see
while.
Doug, and
he has a, quote, regular gig.
he does now. Doug has worked on his vocals for years now by regularly doing karaoke, which I argue all the time is a valid chance to get on stage and work some stuff out in a very low pressure thing. Is it the same as a show? Not quite. I might argue it's a little harder, you know, like you got to get up and bring it and no one really cares.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
and the sound is never that good and nobody's really paying attention. And
for singers, I think it's a really valid, but Doug has actually committed and spent the time over years and now is apparently popular enough at this one karaoke spot that, they comp his tab and
people come to see him.
And he's
him. There every Wednesday or whatever.
I didn't catch the venue, but it's in Boulder.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty fun thing that he's kind of literally got people coming to see him.
Yeah.
Sing songs,
Imagine
which
that.
is cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was the hang.
That was the hang. And then the next morning I got up very early again. Another one of these very early flights.
Yeah.
I think it was a 6:30 flight to San Diego this time. Mm-hmm. So this was for the 4th of 4, a gig on the Lost 80s Live tour with the band named Can. So I flew in, I took a lift to Humphreys on the Bay, which is the venue that we...
Seems like an incredibly cool venue.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What a way to finish this tour.
Yeah.
So Humphreys is both a hotel and a venue. And the hotel, it's not one of those like blocky hotels. It's one of those like, you feel like you're in Hawaii. There's like paths everywhere and all the rooms are on the ground floor. And
what do they call them? It starts with a B. They're bungalows?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, they're not separate units, but they're, all these, they're on the ground level.
It's more single level. Yeah.
Yeah, they're open to the outside.
Yeah, it's very California.
And they're all around a pool.
Oh, nice.
So I walk in, I find the guys hanging out at the pool with their wives. Mm-hmm. The green rooms were also by the pool.
Right.
So they had just kind of put a sign on one side of the pool saying, official people only or whatever, artists only. So that was the green room. So like it was pool, green rooms, and then 20 feet away backstage. And then there was the venue. It was all just right there. So the layout was a lot more conducive to hanging out and meeting other bands this time.
Right.
And so since I've been to 4 of them now and I've shown my face and people are starting to recognize me, I had a little more just natural conversation with the other bands. So I got an invitation from Nick of Wang Chung to go visit in London, which I'm sure was not true, but he's a very nice man.
Very kind offer.
Yeah, very kind offer. I met Jack of Wang Chung. He's the blonde, the guitarist, where Nick is the brunette bassist. And Jack and I had a nice little conversation, and I asked what else he does, at home, and he said he has his own music project called Jack Hughes, which is not his real name, actually. His name is, he picked the name Jack Hughes because it sounds like the French Jacques.
Yeah.
Which means I accuse.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was like, oh yeah, I'll check it out. We talked about our music a little bit, and he asked what my project was, and I told him. And the next morning, Wang Chung had liked Adrienne O on Facebook. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need to put another song up.
Yeah.
We need to do another video.
Yeah, speaking of.
That was surprising. So, and I told you we shared a dressing room, hotel room, with Gene Loves Jezebel.
I know. I thought that was, they were a late 80s MTV staple.
Yeah.
Into the early 90s.
Yeah. And, I just met a few people, and people were reaching out to me a little bit more than they had in the previous shows. Partly because of just the layout. Everybody was mingling. And partly, I think, because I didn't look like a stranger anymore.
Yeah, right. I'm sure some of it, too, is San Diego, and it's just a more fun place than, like... the venue in Dallas looked very nice, but when you fly into that kind of thing and it's a little more industrial.
Yeah, it's like very official. Performing Arts Center type thing.
Yeah.
And this venue was outdoors, and whether you were in the audience or you were on stage, you had a great view of the hill of Point Loma and the bay, the San Diego Bay, and all of these boats in the marina. And it was just, it's spectacular. And the light was golden as it went down. And they had these lights strung overhead from the top of the stage all the way across the audience to the balcony on the far side.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I told you, I forgot to eat. So
it's super easy to do.
I told you, I'm telling you all these experiences I'm having, and you're like, yep, I remember that.
Yeah.
So let's see. Got up super early to go to the airport. I forgot to bring food. So I had nothing in the morning.
We ate breakfast because I drove you to the train.
Oh, wait. This wasn't a super early departure then.
It was not.
This one wasn't.
We got it. No, the story is we got up way earlier than we needed to.
Yeah.
Because we had to fix one of the studio doors.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which became a major part of my weekend.
Yeah.
But we had way more time on our hands than we thought.
Right. This wasn't the 6:30 a.m. flight. That was the return. But so I did eat a piece of quiche with you at like 10 a.m. and then got on the plane and then got to the venue. And then I had half of a sandwich when I got there because catering was still open for lunch. And then hung out in the pool all afternoon with the guys and their wives. And I got to know their wives, and they were really nice to me, which I was glad to see.
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes I'm a little nervous meeting the significant others of the men I'm in bands with.
Right.
Because you don't know if they're going to be jealous or suspicious or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I try to be like super above board at every moment. Like,
very, very.
Even when I was wearing my swimsuit,
welcoming and nice.
Yeah, I was like covering myself up with a towel, like trying to be like, I am not trying to tempt anybody. Like, that's not what I'm here for. Because I've had an experience in the past where a band blew up because somebody thought that I was on her boyfriend. I mean, I was like, anyway.
Completely unfounded, but still, you can't do anything about that kind of thing. So
eating.
Talking about how easy it is to forget to eat.
Yes. So, okay. Ate a little tiny bit of food. Then I didn't want to eat before we played.
Of course.
Because, of course. And then after we played, I wanted to go see my dad and Stephanie because they were there.
I know, so nice.
We got them VIP tickets. So I hung out with them for a while. And then I came back down and I wanted to hang out with, like, the bands and stuff. Yeah. I'm like taking pictures with famous people, watching the show, just bouncing around.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot to eat dinner until like 9:30 when I started getting tired, and then catering is already put away for dinner.
Right.
So I was kind of starving. But I did get a little snack. Get this. So my dad and Stephanie got there very early because we were on very early.
Right.
They were seated up in the VIP area, and someone welcomed them and said, "Oh, Subaru will be here soon. There's some food in this room behind you."
Oh,
right. And they're like, "Subaru? Okay, whatever. Okay, yeah, I guess this must be the VIP food."
Yeah.
So they went in and had some ceviche and some hummus and the meatballs and stuff that was laid out there. And so did I. When I went up and visited them, I was like, "Oh, there's food back there?" So I had a little snack. And then we figured out later that Subaru was sponsoring this whole event, and that was a private party for Subaru people back there. And we had just all helped ourselves to their food.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
That's fun.
Well, I mean, you did get them put in the VIP, so I guess that's that sounds fun. How was the actual show?
Over before it started.
Yeah.
Because there's a curfew at Humphreys, and there were 14 bands, I think.
Oh my
gosh. It was the biggest lineup.
Wow.
12 or 14. So every band was cut a little bit. So there were a lot of 10-minute sets.
Right.
So we got a 10-minute set. So we did 2 songs.
Oh, you did 10.
Yeah.
Even harder to get up.
And we asked if we could do 13 so we could do 3 songs. And they said, no, we have a 5-minute turnover. 5-minute turnover between bands.
5-minute turnover is insane.
Yeah. So no, there's no room to go 3 minutes over.
Yeah.
So, but it was great. I mean, it's like the shorter it is, the harder you bring it. I literally ran across the stage. Anthony asked me afterwards, he's like, "Did you forget to sing like that one part of the song again? Because I saw you run to the microphone." I was like, no. I'm hanging out on the other side of the stage, like thinking, how much longer do I have? 4 bars, 3 bars. I'm like playing or dancing or whatever. I'm like 2 bars. can I make it? And then like, I want to run over the latest possible moment because it's fun to run on stage because there's energy there.
It is fun.
He was like, oh, that's super cool.
Yeah. 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 So, yeah, I guess they had a hard out in industry terms.
Yeah. So hard out at 10:30. Apparently, I learned later that they will pull the plug on bands mid-song at Humphreys. I mean, maybe that's not true, but that's what I heard. And Wang Chung ended with like 20 or 30 seconds to spare. I was watching the clock. It was 10:29 and some seconds, and they finally wrapped.
Some venues have to do that. I mean, that's just, with the city, and they can get fined for making too much noise, because I'm sure there's...
I heard it was a $5,000 fine for going over the cutoff.
Yeah. So there are venues where, that's why they call it a hard out. I'm a big believer in it, though. I loved, even though they were local shows, I mean, they were really well attended, but the old Floyd's in Tallahassee, which is the club all of us came out of and Creed came out of and all this stuff, they would completely pull the plug on people. If they had a 5-band night and your band's set was done at 9:45, you were getting shut off at 9:45. And I saw so many bands get shut off because they just either couldn't manage their time or didn't believe they'd really do it. And, I was like, good. I want to go on when I'm supposed to go on.
Yeah.
That's not cool to
Yeah.
It's incredibly uncool to go over your time.
Yeah.
I mean, there are situations, the last petty gig we did, we went over, but that was fine with the city and city of Littleton.
And there was nobody after us.
Yeah, there's nobody after us. We're not pushing anybody back. They didn't have a, noise ordinance problem. So, there are times it's okay, but you really should respect it.
Yeah.
When there's other people there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we've had some nightmares with those. Remember the time we had to wait like an hour while, we shouldn't mention, but we were playing somebody's birthday party and there were a lot of local acts playing, and the local act that was before us went like 45 minutes over. They just were not stopping.
I don't remember that, but I do remember another one where that happened.
Right.
I remember one at a festival where this was with Adrienne O, and the band before us went 30 or 40 minutes over, and then they made us cut our set to be on time.
Yeah.
That was super not cool.
Yeah.
You know, let them go over and then cut our set by that much to make up for it? Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, to go that much over. It's crazy. So, any takeaways? You learn anything this weekend?
I learned how exhausted sustained adrenaline makes you.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
The only reason I had so much adrenaline was because I was hanging around with rock stars and just trying to be cool. So I was like trying to equally network, but not network. Like, I wasn't trying to be, hey, if you ever need a backup singer. Yeah. I'm just trying to hang out, be available, join conversations that happen nearby naturally.
Yeah.
Be part of the thing. And I'm an introvert. So being on, ready to go, meeting people, hanging out for 8 hours was exhausting, plus the travel.
Yeah.
So that's a takeaway. There's nothing to do about that. Just it's just a fact of life.
Yeah. It sure is.
Which I'm sure I would get used to if I did.
Yeah, you just gotta, that sustained, like you said, being on. Well, we've talked about with teaching. That's one of the hard things even with teaching, where if you've got to teach, oh my gosh, during the pandemic when everything was Zoom and I was doing some of those group classes on Zoom.
Oh my gosh, that
would last 2 hours. I think I did a couple that were 4 hours.
Oh,
and you're just
jeez.
You're not doing anything. You're sitting in a chair talking, but just the effort of being on and present and in the moment and trying to kind of keep the energy moving down the road. It's exhausting. It's one of the hardest things. It's why your Wednesdays are so hard. That's all. That's just, that's a lot of time to be on. Yeah. And God forbid you had to teach a bunch of teenagers or something. I don't know how those people do it. That's just.
I think there are people that are more natural teachers. Some of them.
Maybe there are people who thrive on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe there are people who thrive on it.
So anyway, that whole weekend, we had the gig. We stayed up a little late, not super late. And we had a couple of the band members and one of their wives stay at the beach house in San Diego.
Your dad's
My dad was so
place.
generous to give us a place to stay.
Right.
So the band hung out a bit the next day. Just went to the boardwalk. Got breakfast sandwiches. Went to the Belmont amusement park area. Did some shopping. Hung out and got some barbecue. Basically, this is the last time I'm going to see these guys.
That you know of.
That I know of. I mean.
Yeah.
I think I'll see them again because we are honestly friends now.
Right.
And they were talking about like having everybody come up to the drummer's farm outside Toronto sometime in the summer. He's got a boat and he lives near a lake, and I really hit it off with his girlfriend. So I think this is not the end of the road for us as people. As far as the band goes, it's all down to whether they figure out some legal challenges.
Yeah, which just seems unbelievable. But that, those sorts of things happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without going into any sorts of details, just to explain what I mean by legal challenges is there's a previous band member who doesn't want the current band members to be touring and is throwing a lot of obstacles in their way. So they have to figure that out before they can do anything else.
Boy, ego.
I know.
Such a driving force, yet constant problem in doing music. Like, you gotta have some to want to do it,
right?
And then it constantly also gets in the way. It's such a funny, it's a funny thing. Mm-hmm. And everybody's got different amounts of ego driving their thing, but you got to have a little bit. You got to want to be the one doing it on some level, But, gosh, speaking of being the person doing it, it's been a heavy production week for me.
Yeah, I was just going to ask what you did this week.
Yeah, finishing up a couple of production items, a couple of song packages. Well, one, sometimes we negotiate a rate where we go, we're going to spend 15 hours spread out over time doing your song that you've written, and that might include me helping you write or helping you finish. And in this case, I did a little bit of both. And so we finished up one of those. Even though it's 15 hours, they often stretch out because we'll work on the song and then demo the song, which demo is just like a rough version so you know how it goes. And then the singer will go away and practice singing it. It was interesting because we were talking about, not to call anybody out or anything, but how some singers have so much trouble changing up anything about what they're doing. And it's kind of interesting. Sometimes as a producer, you just have to learn to keep your mouth shut because you're like, you can just completely make a suggestion and it's a good suggestion, but once they start trying to do it the way you suggested, they just absolutely cannot, and they completely lose the way they were doing it before, and it just goes away. And, sometimes, usually you can get it back by like, hey, let's take a 10, 15-minute break, I'll just play it on acoustic and we'll sing it together or whatever. We'll get it back. But man, sometimes you can really regret making a suggestion, even if you were right about the suggestion. You can be like, oh, darn it. I broke it. But great singer, really cool song. Someone who has performed with us in the past with Cody. And so we finished that track up. And then I finished up another track that was really interesting because it was kind of going in and reproducing and remixing one. So that was great. We kind of spent a few weeks. Garrett Hoey.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a great track that he'd done with an obviously really talented producer and just needed like a second set of eyes to go in and they had this dynamite track. I wish I could remember the producer's name. Dynamite track, but it didn't really have an intro, and it didn't really have an ending. And there were just some things that could be solved with mix stuff where it was very static all the way through the song, and just making the drums get quieter and louder and stuff, even though they were just sampled drums, really helped drive the whole thing. So that was a fun thing, and I think it turned out pretty good. And then Eric Golden and I think I was talking about it on the live stream I do. We are getting very close to having his album written.
Wow.
Eric Golden, we've talked about on the podcast. Local country artist. I always forget to mention he's got like 2 or 3 Colorado Country Music Hall of Fame awards.
Yeah.
He's been Entertainer of the Year.
Yeah.
He was New Artist of the Year in 2019 or something. And so we're very close to having a record finished with him.
Exciting.
It is really exciting. We've gone out of our way to, keep it very authentically classic country, which Eric is a devotee. I've talked to you about how much fun it is working with him, because, like, we'll have these discussions about, like, are we talking about, like, are we talking about George Strait in 1982? Or are we talking about Alan Jackson 1991? Like, what sound are we going for? And just that kind of level of, like, knowing the genre and being like, where are we trying to hit with this? But the fun thing is we've tried to make sure that we've got something representative of all the kind of different country grooves and stuff. We've got the two-step, and we've got the cha-cha, and we've got the waltz, and we've got the...
Oh, okay.
We really took that approach of writing writing whatever came up and whatever ideas we had, but making sure on the record there'll be a representation of all the different, like, let's not just do all but shuffle things.
Yeah.
Or let's,
Is he going to print CDs?
Yeah, going to print CDs.
I would think he could sell those at gigs.
I think he's going to do great.
Because his audience skews older, and I think they would still buy CDs.
I think they would buy CDs. It's going to have some covers on it. One interesting cover we're doing, if we can clear the licensing, it might be a little bit of a problem, is Badman Rising by Creedence Clearwater Revival, which a lot of Creedence totally works as country tunes. You just kind of make it a little more, it's got a little,
Right.
That's old-timey sounding music anyway, so in the best way, but, it totally works to take it over to that Bakersfield country sound. But we've just had a blast working together on the thing, and we've been working on it for about a year, and I think the songs are coming together. We really want to make a splash for him. This is going to be his first original thing, so it was important to both of us to, like, not just slam together some stuff and put it out, but to put out something that's really, And in terms of the CD, I was telling people one of the smartest things that I think Cody does is not selling CDs, but saying, look, these are free. I want you to take the CD. I want you to listen to my music. Suggested donation is $10. And then from talking to Cody, what he sees is he gets a lot of people who do take the CD for free, and then he gets a lot of people that give him $20 or $30. So it sort of evens out. But
he moves more CDs.
He moves more CDs, which ultimately, because we've talked about, it's a little different with Cody because he has such a built-up fan base that are there to see him very often. There's also different people. But, one of the big problems for a guy like Eric who's doing 250 gigs a year and playing all these bars is somebody watches you and they really enjoy it and they have a great time and they loved it, but then they walk out and they don't remember you or you're not able to convert them into people who start following you. And I think that's one thing the CD is going to be able to do is like, hey, take this with you.
Yeah.
You're going to have that reminder.
Yeah.
You can ask people to follow you on Facebook and all those things, but, I think it's going to be a great thing. So happy to announce that. And I've said a million times, Eric is the greatest guy. We've said
I know, it really is.
Such an incredible dude and such a hard worker. And really someone I'm very proud to have as a Performance High alum.
Yeah.
It's really cool that he has come out of what we do and is now doing what he's doing. Yeah. Which is, pretty great. Let's talk about what's coming up. I said I had a crazy week. Podcast tonight, rehearsal tomorrow, show for me Wednesday. Then we've got a Petty Nicks rehearsal, but it's going to be all Nicks because we are playing an all Stevie Nicks show. So it's just going to be Nicks experience.
the Nicks experience.
The Nicks experience.
I'm a little tiny bit nervous about this show just because it's been a very long time since I've carried a whole show as lead singer. I mean, I did with Urban Dance Theory, basically, but The Fever was 2 female leads. Girls on Top was 3 female leads.
Right.
Urban Dance Theory, mostly me, 90% me. But that's been a while now.
And Adrienne O.
Oh, that's right.
But that's been, we
That's
just
been a
did that one show in 5 years. So.
And I guess it's because we have this whole show built out that we know how it works. We know who says what when. We know the flow of it, and so this is a new show.
It's a new show. It's going to be a completely new show.
Yeah.
And it works very differently with it all being Stevie stuff, because what's great about the Petty Nicks thing is you can play those 2 energies off of each other.
Yeah, it's totally like line them up and then.
Well, yeah, we talked.
Take them home.
Yeah.
fill the bases and then hit a home run.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be that way. And Stevie doesn't have the kind of just the easy, fun. Here's a song sort of songs.
Or
They're
if
all like.
Or if she does. You don't remember them, so it's sort of pointless to cover them. She has plenty of album cuts, but they're album cuts. You don't, they weren't like, Petty has so many like minor hits where you're like,
you have a lot of flexibility.
that one too. I think it's gonna go great. I think it's it's
only an hour anyway.
It's only an hour, and you can just kind of push.
So that's Thursday. Then Friday, no gigs. Oh, thank goodness. But Saturday, I just accepted a Diamond Empire gig, not on bass, but actually on vocals. The New Mexico Diamond Empire band reached out, one of the producers from New Mexico reached out for me to fill in on an emergency cancellation in Durango this weekend. So,
like 6 hours
woo!
away. Yeah.
It's going to be a drive.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to help with, I just can't imagine the stress of like having a lead singer or any band member cancel on a wedding like 6 days, 5 days. Oh my gosh, 5 days out.
And not just, like you said, not just for the band guys, but I thought it was so cool that you felt for the wedding people, that like this is after all their wedding.
Yeah.
And you had nothing to do with it before being offered the gig, but still the idea of like leaving people in the lurch.
So this will be my first actual Diamond Empire gig. It just will be on voice.
Oh, right, because you have a bass one in October.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. Well, we're going to figure out how we're doing that this weekend.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, more travel. I was thinking we would have a nice, slow Labor Day weekend. Well, it'll be fast because it'll be in the car.
Yeah.
For at least 12 hours, if not 14 or 16, depending on traffic.
Yeah, because mountain traffic on the last weekend of the year, last holiday weekend of the year, summer holiday weekend, because you can't go in the mountains.
I'm going to get up before daybreak.
Yeah.
To drive.
I think that's probably wise.
It can get really bad. Anyway.
Let's wrap it up for yet another week. Thanks for all of you that have hung out for 80 weeks now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows how much longer this is going to go on?
Yeah.
I'm the one who's like, I don't want to do it anymore. And Justin says, no, we have to keep doing it. So I said, well, okay, but you have to edit.
We'll be glad we did it. That's why the edit's been so smooth lately. All right. Well, as always, we are sponsored by Performance High.
Voice and Music Studio.
And we want to welcome back our sponsor, The Concept of Travel.
The same sponsor as last week.
Yeah, they've been nice enough to sponsor us for yet another week, as it turns out. San Diego.
Do you like where you are?
Durango.
Do you want to be somewhere else? Travel. All right. See you guys next week.